Hey guys, it's Maddie, and today I'll be showing you my wrap-up for fall 2016. So in total, I read 19 books for fall, which isn't that bad. It's almost close to 20 books. If I had read one more book, I would have been to 20, and that would have been cool. But yeah, I read 19, and they were all pretty much, for the majority of them, they were all great books. So if you have not seen my seasonal wrap-ups before, how I do them is I show you all the books that I read and say their rating. I don't go far into them because if I gave each and every one of my thoughts for all these books, this would be a super long video. So I just do a little run through for all the books I read, and then at the end of this video I'll show you the top 5 books that I read this fall. So I'll just show you my favorites that I read this season. So without further ado, let's just get started with showing you all the books that I read this fall. So starting with the month of September, I read First and Then by Emma Mills, which I gave 4 stars. The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight by Jennifer E. Smith, and I gave this 3 stars. Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion, and I gave this 5 stars. None of the Above by I.W. Gregorio, and I gave this 4 stars. The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas, which contains the novellas to the Throne of Glass series, and I gave this 4.5 stars. Written in the Stars by Aisha Said, and I gave this 2 stars. Forget Tomorrow by Pintip Dunn, and I gave this 5 stars. And moving on to October, I read All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, which I gave this 5 stars. My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Wonga, and I gave this 5 stars. This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, and I gave this 4 stars. P.S. I Like You by Casey West, and I gave this 5 stars. Giver by Lois Lowry, and I gave this 4 stars. My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows, and I gave this 4.5 stars. And moving on to November, I read Remember Yesterday by Pintip Dunn, and this is the sequel to the Forget Tomorrow trilogy, and I gave this 5 stars. Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven, and I gave this 4 stars. Lastly, we have December, and the first book I read that month was Infinity by Jess Accardo, and I gave this 4.5 stars. The Program by Suzanne Young, and I gave this 3.5 stars. Shatter Me by Tara Mafi, and I gave this 4.5 stars. And lastly, I have Wake by Lisa McMahon, and I gave this 2.5 stars. So those were all the books I've read this fall. Now I'll be showing you my top 5 favorite books that I read this season, and I will be showing these in order from my least favorite to my most favorite and my number 1 book that I read this fall. So let's just get started. Coming in at number 5, I have All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This book had been on my TBR for 2 years, which is a long time, so I finally ended up getting to it, and I really loved this book. It was so emotional, and like still to this day I think about it and it just like gets me all emotional because of what happened in this book. This book is about 2 characters named Finch and Violet, and they accidentally meet at the top of their school bell tower, and they have a plan to jump off, but they talk themselves off of not jumping off because they both had a plan to kill themselves, and instead they spend more time together and they get involved in a school project together and they start up this relationship. And this is a really cute book that I loved. It deals with very serious themes in it, like suicide, but it was still great, and of course it made me cry because of what this book is all about, but I still really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the movie that this book is going to be based off of, which I think is coming out in 2017. I have a feeling it's going to be great. Hopefully they don't mess it up, but I am excited to see it, and I'm excited to reread this book someday. And this is a book I would recommend, but just be warned that this book does have suicide, abuse, and depression in it, so if those are things that bother you, don't go into this book, but if not, then definitely give it a read if you haven't yet. And next I have a book that is very similar to All the Bright Places, and that is My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Wonga. This is another book that deals with suicide, so it's a lot like All the Bright Places, but they both do have some differences thrown in there, obviously. This book is about a girl named Azelle, and she wants to kill herself, but she doesn't want to do it alone, so she goes on this website where you can find a suicide partner, and she contacts this guy, and they meet up, and they set a date for when they both are going to kill themselves. And these two start spending more time together leading up to the date where they plan to kill themselves, and Azelle finds that she is finding a lot of things to live for, so through the course of this book, she's also trying to help Roman, who is her suicide partner, to see that he should live because there are things that he should live for. And this is also a love story, and it's super, super cute and sad, but it overall just made me really, really happy because this book just talks about the theme where there is so much to live for, even if you want to kill yourself. There is just so much, and that it's not worth it. And I think that's just such a good theme that a book should have, especially for teenagers who are so depressed and so down that they don't want to live anymore, because I know that is such a problem. So I really like the themes that this book expressed because I think they are very important for all teenagers to know. And the ending of this book especially just made me so happy, and it hit me so emotionally. The reason I put this book higher above All the Right Places, since they're really similar, is because the ending of this book had a stronger impact on me. And I can't say why because of spoilers, but it was just so great, and I would highly recommend this book. Of course, it does include themes as suicide and depression, so if those are things that do bother you, then be forewarned that this book does have them. But if not, definitely give it a try. I think this is a book that is really underrated and that everyone, especially teenagers, should read. And coming in at number 3, I have my first historical fiction book I ever read, and that is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. I didn't expect to love this book as much as I did, but it was just so, so great. This book is a retelling of Lady Jane Grey, who I'm not very familiar with her backstory, but she is a queen who ruled for 9 days. So this book is about her, but there are some humorous twists that go on in this book. This book is basically about Lady Jane becoming queen because her cousin Edward, who was a former king, is not eligible to be king anymore. So she becomes queen. She gets involved in this arranged marriage that she didn't expect and she's not a fan of. But in her midst of being queen, there are some things that are happening that she didn't expect and are really placing a target on her back because she is queen. I really love this book because of its humor. I didn't expect for this book to be so funny, but I found myself smiling and laughing throughout most of this book, and I really enjoyed that because not a lot of books can make me laugh, but this one was just so funny and so witty, and some of the scenes were just so ridiculous, but they were also so great. What I really loved in this book was the romance because it was so cheesy, like really cheesy, but it was also just so cute and fluffy, and this book was just great. It's definitely a book that I would reread again and that I want to reread again this year, because if I'm ever in the mood for a good laugh, I'm going to go to this book because it definitely just made me laugh and smile. And if you're looking for a book that has those elements where it can make you smile and can make you really happy and can make you laugh, then give this one a try if you haven't yet, because this book will give you all of these things. And overall, I think it was just such a great historical fiction book, and I'm glad it was the first historical fiction book that I had ever read. And my runner-up book is Forget Tomorrow by Pentib Dunn. This is a dystopian book about a world where when you turn 17, you are able to receive a future memory from your future self telling you how your life is going to be like what your job is going to be, who you're going to marry, all of that stuff. So Callie, who is the main character, turns 17 and she's eligible to receive her future memory. But the thing is, her future memory is of her killing her younger sister. So because of this, she is deemed a criminal before she commits this crime, and she is put into jail. And she's also trying to figure out why she would kill her sister, because she loves her sister and she doesn't understand why she would kill her. And she's also discovering things about this world that aren't what they seem, things involving the Future Memory program. This book was a hidden gem because I had never heard about it before. I got this book from the BookTube Tours, which is a program on BookTube where you can sign up to receive books and review them for free. So I got to do that with this book, and I had never heard about it before, but the BookTube Tours introduced it to me, and I'm so glad they did, because this is a new dystopian series that I have fallen in love with and really cannot wait to read more of the books in this series. I love the sequel too just as much as this one, which I didn't include on this list because I already included the first book, but the sequel was also excellent, and I really love how this book has to do with time travel too, because time travel books are one of my favorite things to read, and I don't read enough of them. So I'm glad I got some time travel in this book, and definitely would recommend it if you are looking into getting into a new dystopian series, because this one was just fantastic. And we've made it to my #1 book that I read this fall, and that book is P.S. I Like You by Kasie West. This is a contemporary book, which is my favorite genre, so that might be why it's on #1, but besides that fact, this is a book that I absolutely loved and I thought was so cute. This is about Lily, and she is someone who has a habit of writing songs. She's a songwriter and she plays guitar and she really loves music. So she gets bored in her chemistry class one day and she ends up writing song lyrics on her desk. And then the next day when she comes back to class, she sees that someone has finished writing the lyrics for her on her desk and has also left her a letter. And this starts a series of events where her and the secret pen pal start exchanging letters every chemistry class. And throughout the course of this book, she's trying to figure out who her secret pen pal is. And she also starts to fall in love with this person through the letters. It's just such a neat concept. And this is one of the concepts where I'm like, why didn't I think about this before? Because it's just so cool and sweet, and it was predictable, I have to say, because I figured out who the person she was writing to was by like the 5th chapter. But besides that fact, it was great, and this book contains my most favorite romance trope of all time. So of course I love the romance in this book. I thought it was just so cute, and all around this book is just a really fluffy book, and it made me like so happy and it made me smile. And I would really recommend this book, especially if you're into contemporary romance books, because this one was just so great and it's made me want to read more books by Kasie West for sure. And I'm going to try to get through all her books in 2017 because I really have fallen in love with her writing because of this book, and I can't wait to read more by her. So that was my top 5 books I read this fall. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more bookish related videos, and I'll be back really soon.